All right, it's 6 o'clock. We're gonna get started. This is a regular scheduled board meeting for Edgewood City Schools. Mrs. Bowers, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Gary Gabbard.
Present.
Mr. Mark Messerschmidt.
Present.
Mr. Michael Pressler.
Present.
Mrs. Amy Ashcraft is absent. Mr. Andrew Pressler is absent but on his way.
Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's go to the Lord in prayer. We'll be praying through Psalm 15. Dear God, we come to you and are thankful for this day. But your word says, Lord, who can dwell in your tent? Who can live on your holy mountain? The one who lives blamelessly, practices righteousness, and acknowledges the truth in his heart. Who does not slander with his tongue? Who does not harm his friend or discredit his neighbor? Who despises the one rejected by the Lord, but honors those who fear the Lord, who keeps his word, whatever the cost, who does not lend his silver at interest or take a bribe against the innocent. The one who does these things will never be shaken. God, we thank you for your wisdom that's contained in your holy book. God, we need that wisdom here this evening. God, lead and guide us. May you be honored in the activity this evening. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. This time I'm going to look for a motion for the approval of the agenda. So moved. Mr. Messerschmidt, my second.
Second.
Mr. Pressler. Mrs. Bowers, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Mark Messerschmidt.
Yes.
Mr. Michael Pressler.
Yes.
Mr. Gary Gabbard.
Yes. Next we have presentations.
Yes, I'd like to set up the next two presentations. Our first is on health and safety, or safety and wellness, and that will be facilitated by Alicia Adams and Mr. John Caesar, I believe. And then right after that, Alicia and Scott Clemens will do a facilities update. So thank you for being here this evening. And I'm going to give the board the choice to either follow the slides of the computer or step down. I think most of us are going to step down.
Are we?
Okay, yep.
Oh, we're right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. I'm Alicia Adams, the Director of Health and Safety for the district, and I just want to take a few minutes to discuss some of the safety updates and some of the initiatives that we're working on throughout the school year. And John Caesar's going to kind of work with me, and we're going to talk about sort of the physical safety of our students and our facilities and our buildings, and then also the social emotional wellness and the mental health safety of our students as well. So just to sort of get everybody up to speed as far as annual requirements and compliance pieces, there are things that the district does and has to do each year to keep our students and our staff and our community safe. Part of that is submitting and certifying our emergency operations plan. So there is an emergency operations plan for each building in the district, all of the school buildings as well as central office. And in those plans, there's maps and floor plans, site overviews, prevention protocol, response protocols, reunification plans for students and their families. There is a threat assessment policy in there that we have staff members trained in every building to do threat assessments on students as situations arise. If there's any concerning behavior or a student hears another student say something that could be frightening to them, we work through a threat assessment policy, and we have staff members that are trained in every building to do that. In addition, we update our building and district contact information in the event of an emergency with all of our first responders, our emergency medical staff, our district staff, etc. So those plans are incredibly lengthy, they're incredibly thorough, and we work through those. We submit them each year. They have to be recertified every 3 years. So we're up for recertification this year in 2025. We'll be looking at all of those plans to recertify them. In addition, there are required drills, annual drills that we have to do. It used to be just your standard fire and tornado. Now we do what we call rapid evacuation, and that can be a fire drill. It can also be, an active aggressor or any type of a situation where you're moving students out of the building, or you're giving teachers the option to decide, are we going to move the students out, are we going to lock down, are we going to stay in the classroom? And one of those has to be a theoretical drill where you actually work through some type of an emergency type situation. So again, some of those can be fire drills, but there is a requirement for 3 evacuation type safety drills. And then tornado drills, you have to do 1 per month that you're in school, April and May. We also do vulnerability assessments in all of our buildings. We have done formal vulnerability assessments where we bring in our partners through Butler County, emergency medical staff, facilities teams, people from the state of Ohio come in. We most recently did one at EIS. 2 years ago, we did one at the middle school. And what they do is they assess the buildings top to tail, inside, outside, everything from maintenance to safety procedures, to the HVAC system, to lighting, electrical, all of that kind of stuff. And we assess some of the critical notes, and it gives us a plan moving forward. A lot of times there's low-hanging fruit. There's some pretty easy, quick fixes and things that we can address right away. And then there's also, more large-scale projects that we might need to write grants for that we can address in following years if we need to. So we use that information. In addition, we as a district team, we do vulnerability assessments on a smaller scale in all of our buildings every year as well. And then at the end of the year, we do anonymous reporting. So we take any threats, anything that has been reported to our Stay Safe, Speak Up hotlines. We have a state one, and we have one through Public School Works. We take all of that information, and we are required to report that to the state. We have to document some demographic information about it, and then in addition, we have to document the response and the follow-up to all of those reports that have come into the district, the anonymous reports. So compliance-wise, those are some of the things that we do from a safety standpoint. In addition to other things, other initiatives that we do throughout the district. So these things that are up here, these are just safety updates and things that we've implemented over the last couple of years, most of them through grant funding. You'll notice the top one is OFCC grant funding. We spoke about it quite a bit at length last year. With that money, we were able to purchase additional cameras. We put safety film on every ground floor window in the district and door. We installed safety bollards at EECC and EPS. We purchased additional emergency radios. We updated some badge access, worked on our bus GPS system. We purchased equipment for safety rooms in all of the buildings. So the OFCC grant funding allowed us to do a lot in our buildings to make sure that we were enhancing the safety of the buildings. We received another grant that we were able to purchase some additional supplies to add to our emergency bags that we have in all of our classrooms and buildings, or classrooms and offices. We purchased Stop the Bleed kits, some emergency blankets, just some basic supplies that we thought needed to be in some of those emergency bags. We were also awarded a grant to purchase a battery backup for our technology hub, which is located at the middle school. In the event that that building loses power, we will have the ability to back up that technology hub for hours versus 15 or 20 minutes, so that the rest of the buildings are not impacted by the loss of power at the middle school. So we're working through that, getting that purchased for this school year. In addition, we're working through reunification training with our district and building team. So have a reunification training scheduled with all of our administrators, who will then be taking it back to their buildings to enhance and develop our reunification plans with the current staff that we have and our current climate, looking at our reunification locations and making sure that those plans are ready to go in the event that we ever need to reunify our students with their families. Our first district safety committee meeting was held last Friday on the 27th. We added some new members to that committee, and it was just an incredibly valuable meeting where we had lots of discussion. We have some people from the Ohio School Safety Center join us, our SROs, administrators, parents from the community, staff members, just to come in and talk about the direction that the district is going and what we're doing as far as safety is concerned. And it gives us some really great, valuable input moving forward. So that's just some of the stuff that we're doing from a safety standpoint as far as the physical facility safety of our students. And then Mr. Caesar's been working with Mr. Bankson on some of the SEL and the mental health components for our students as well.
My name is John Caesar. I am the Director of Social and Emotional Learning here for Edgewood City Schools. Just wanted to talk to you a little bit about all of the action steps that we are taking to help all of our students and families with their mental health needs throughout our district. So before I get into that, just kind of want to give you a little bit of background and then some statistics that kind of help drive all of our planning for all of our programming here in the school district. So Edgewood City Schools serves over 3,400 students and families. The one thing that they all have in common is the need for well-being. So over the past, just here honestly in the last 5 or 6 years, the social and emotional needs for all of our students and families has increased. You know, we talk about physical health. When you're here at a school, sometimes that's pretty easy to diagnose. You know, somebody falls on the playground, they need a Band-Aid, or we got a sprained ankle, we got to get them a wheelchair, things like that. The mental health piece is a lot harder to identify and then also a lot harder to treat because it's all under the surface. Mental health obviously is going to affect the way that the person thinks or feels and how they respond to situations and how they interact with everyone. So I can honestly tell you just here at the high school level that I see the most of, you know, all of our students on how they respond. There are some underlying issues that usually go along with that has been affecting their mental health. So we use this to try to drive all of our programming for all of the students. So just some national and state averages that we have here from 2007 to 2023. There's been a 64% increase in youth suicide. 1 in 5 children in between the ages of 13 and 18 have or will have a mental health condition. 50% of all lifetime mental illness begin by the age of 14 years old. Some state averages. In Ohio, suicide is the leading cause of death in youth ages 10 to 14. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for ages 15 to 34. 90% of those who have died from suicide have had some type of mental illness. And then the last one, 37% of students ages 14 or older with a mental health condition drop out of high school. So these are all things that we look into and we try to address with all of our programming. And we partner with other programs outside of our district, outside agencies, to help bring in some mental health support for our students and families. So here are some things that we do here at Edgewood City Schools to try to tackle some of those statistics there and keep those numbers from increasing and actually get those numbers to drop. First and foremost is our school counselors. They are usually the first responders to all of these. Huge thanks goes to them for all that they do. students feel most comfortable with them, reporting to them, and from there, I always kind of say it's like a bottleneck. They're at the head of the bottle. They hear everything first, and then they can kind of send the student and the family through the rest of the bottle. They're giving them all the resources that they need. The partnership that we have with 1 in 5, it's an organization that promotes mental wellness and health through various programs that support how we talk about mental health. So currently the biggest thing that they are helping us with is our signs of suicide presentations that are given to the students in grades 6 through 12. House Bill 123 mandates that schools deliver at least 1 hour of instruction of suicide prevention. We actually started that today. We delivered a suicide awareness and prevention course to over 800 students today. And it went as well as it could go. But we partner with 1 in 5, and they give us the programming that allows our teachers to go in and educate the students with all of that. The Second Step program, that's a curriculum that we have purchased to help serve our students in kindergarten through 8th grade. This is a curriculum that focuses on building positive relationships, managing your emotions, meeting goals, giving students skills to be successful both in and out of high school. So there's obviously lessons that the students can go through. We actually have an SEL class that is offered at the intermediate school, where this is the main curriculum that they are using. It's one of the specials that the students go to, and they learn all of these skills to hopefully build better relationships and manage those emotions a little bit better. Our Hope Squad program, this is another suicide prevention program that provides a peer-to-peer support. We have one in our middle school, one in our high school that are facilitated by our teachers, but the students actually run it. So we have teachers there that are kind of guiding and assisting, but the students create activities and other kind of assemblies that talk about what to do when you see students acting in a harmful way to themselves. Our Signs of Suicide program, that's what I was just talking about. We give this to over about 2,000 students over the course of 3 days. And basically what it does is it teaches the students how to acknowledge the signs of suicide. If they see friends that may be showing some kind of warning signs, it teaches them how to act, and that's actually the model. It's ACT, acknowledge, care, and tell. So today, we used the English classes here at the high school. Teachers went in, presented about a 35, 40-minute lesson. The students had the option to fill out an exit ticket. If they needed more additional support, we were able to provide that to them with our school counselors and some other outside agencies. Another thing that we have is called the Sandy Hook Promise. This is also part of House Bill 123 that is required by schools. Talks about a social inclusion piece that we have to provide at least 1 hour of training. Basically, this is a national program that promotes social acceptance, helps students recognize, intervene, and get help for people who may be at risk. So we have a Start With Hello week. We just completed that not last week, the week before. We had a Spirit Week where students did some different activities to kind of promote just starting with hello and forming new friendships. Our Envisions partnerships, we have some peer-to-peer mentoring, some life skills training that work on self-management skills. We have that down at the elementary levels, middle school, and the high school levels. They've come in and provided that training for some of our students. This is more of a Tier 2 intervention that we do, where we find groups of students that may benefit from this, and then we offer that as well. Catalyst Counseling, we have an outside counseling service that comes here to the schools to provide both students and families some counseling. So just today, actually, with our Signs of Suicide program, we actually partnered up with, got a family partnered up with Catalyst having those individual conversations. So that's been very helpful for us. QPR training for staff and students. This is something that we've done in the past where 2 years ago we had over 50 staff members get trained. QPR stands for Question, Persuade, and Refer. Again, just another suicide awareness program that we have that allows us to get a better knowledge of identifying those warning signs at an earlier time. We've done climate surveys, both with staff and students, just to kind of get an idea of what the needs may be. Our school groups, here at the high school, we have Virtual Academy, we have Edge Academy. Down at the middle school and the elementary schools, we have our SEALs group, which Mr. Banks runs our SEALs group, which is another kind of tier 2 intervention. We identify some students that may need a little bit of extra support with managing those skills or managing some type of behavior. He provides a little bit more intensive and more one-on-one support in those groups. Our CIA group, we call that Cougars in Action. Just another student-led group that goes out and does various activities, promoting all of our PBIS language, does some community service as well. But again, just using our valuable resources to students to help each other and help their other classmates as well. So some current projects that we are looking into, just last week or the week before was brought to my attention about the Adapt for Life program. I think Mr. Messersmith, I'm not sure if it was you, Mr. Presser was the one that brought that up. I actually talked to, I just lost her name, I talked to her last week. Basically what that is a 4-day suicide prevention program that focuses on grades 8 to 12. We're looking at something possibly partnering up with our health classes to do something there, maybe start a second semester. It really lines up well with our Signs of Suicide program. It's kind of a follow-up to that, so to speak. So that's something that we're looking into right now. The Erica's Lighthouse program is also a mental health program that supports that House Bill 123. Another piece that we have to stay in compliance with is Senate Bill 288, which requires the schools to provide 1 hour of bullying prevention in grades K through 6 and 1 hour of dating violence in grades 7 through 12. That's something that we will do later on in the school year. We partner with a group called COCA, Council on Child Abuse. They come in and they do the presentation for the students there in those grade levels. And then the one thing that we just started this year, Mr. Banks is taking this on down at the elementary levels. We have our SABRS assessment. It's a climate survey that is given to students grades K to 5 to assist us in the planning of the future projects. Actually, I'm sorry, they're given to students in grades 2 through 5. It's given to the teachers K through 5. So we use the data that is collected from this assessment to help gain some knowledge of what our students might need, what our teachers might need, and then go out and find the programming for it. So again, these are just some of the projects that we are looking into right now to kind of continue to stay out ahead as best we possibly can for all the mental health needs in our district.
John, I thank you. I was just sharing with another administrator today that prior to COVID, we didn't always talk aloud about mental health. It was a secret, or people just kept it under their breath. I do believe through the pandemic, we've learned to talk about it, and we've learned to acknowledge it's an illness, just like diabetes or something else, and it's nothing to be ignored. And obviously, the school is working in depth on investigating new programs and identifying behaviors that could be at risk, and certainly working with Tier 2, which means small groups, and with families that may need more intensive intervention. I praise all of you that work with this day in, day out. So thank you very much.
And that's one of the things I will say about our partnership with 1 and 5. One of their taglines is stop the stigma, and it's okay to start talking about this in schools, and they're just trying to really get that out to everybody. And right now, it's a very sensitive topic for all the schools, and it will always be, but getting schools more comfortable teaching these things to the students is their primary goal, and that was one of the things that I was looking for when we started this.
Questions from our board members?
No, I just wanted to say thank you very much for this, for everything you guys have done for mental health. To see all the different resources and projects and stuff that we're working on, it's greatly appreciated, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, back up to the microphone. We're going to talk a little bit about facility usage. I know we've had some questions in regard to, obviously, school programs within our district use facilities, athletic programs use our facilities, youth that feed into our schools, and it gets into a conversation of who's on first and what do we charge each of those groups. So turn it over to Scott and Alicia, who will walk us through our process.
Yeah, thank you. Scott and I worked really hard on this. We were tasked with just taking a look at our facility usage policy, and what we quickly realized is there's just a lot to it, and there's a lot of every situation is a little different, every organization is a little bit different. When I first started working on this, we about a year or two ago we had redone a little bit of our policy, and in an attempt to follow the policy, I think we were turning away some organizations and some members of our community and groups that work with our students, by having a cost associated with using the facilities. And so some questions came up, and Scott and I put a little committee together to evaluate this, and Scott's done a really good job of reaching out to other school districts to find out what do they do and how do they handle it. And so we've put together, what we think might help and how we can serve our community a little bit, how we can open up our buildings to, some other organizations and groups that work with our students. This is certainly up for discussion, and we can make changes to this, but we think we're moving forward, but there's some components in here that we also feel like we've taken a step back, but I think it's going to work, the process is going to work a little bit better for us. So we'll kind of walk you through it together. You're welcome to ask us questions during or after, it's whatever works for you. So what we decided is we really needed to take a look at the groups and the organizations that use our facilities, and we decided to break them down into different tiers, and that's going to help us determine usage and how much usage and when they're able to be in the buildings, and then whether or not there's a cost associated with it. So our tier 1 teams, our tier 1 organizations are going to be any of our OHSAA sanctioned middle school and high school athletic teams, in addition to our middle school and high school clubs and extracurriculars, and some of these are even classes, our band and our choirleaders and our overtures and our FFA. So anything that is directly affiliated to middle school or high school curriculum, middle school and high school athletics, sanctioned athletics, and then some of those extracurricular organizations. So then our tier 2 is going to be some of our Edgewood community groups. We have lots. We're fortunate that we have a lot of youth organizations. We have boys and girls youth basketball, volleyball, cheer, wrestling kids club, and we also have some community organizations within our community, churches, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, things like that. So that's going to be part of our tier 2 community groups. And then we were asked to really take a look at some outside teams and organizations that are made up of or service a majority of our Edgewood students. We don't want to be putting some of these organizations out that are still servicing, 90% Edgewood kids. We want them to be able to come in and use our facilities. So an outside team or organization that's made up of or services at least 80% Edgewood students would be considered tier 2. If less than that, you're looking at a tier 3. So that's a new kind of policy here, something that we thought might open up our facilities a little bit more to some of our community groups. So one of the things that we talked about, and when we look at these tier 2 groups, if we went back and looked at our youth basketball last year. This is kind of where the change started to happen, is we looked at our youth basketball, and that organization has grown significantly over the last couple of years. And so if we looked at it as the policy was written last year, and if we charged our youth basketball organization for the amount of gym time that they used each day of the week, it would have been over $100,000 if we charged them according to the policy. Obviously, that's outrageous. We never would do that. That's not something that we would ever even consider. And so we started looking at, when we have organizations and teams in our buildings, there is some wear and tear associated with that. We do have to upkeep our gym floors. We do have to maintain them every summer and resurface things and things like that. So there does need to be a cost associated with some of this, but we certainly can't charge them by hour, by day. That's not going to work. So what we did is we reached out to basketball was the first organization that we did, and both boys and girls youth basketball organizations paid $1,250 last year in competition cheer, $800 youth volleyball, $1,250 again, and some of those groups we got this year because we started it a little bit late, and boys and girls basketball were more than willing. It was essentially a donation at that point. So we started thinking, okay, how can we manage this? How can we, still have some money coming in to upkeep and maintain our facilities, but also making it affordable and making it something that these organizations can do. So the reason for the price difference in there is just based on the number of days and the amount of time that they were using the gym. Like competition cheer, I think they're only 2 days a week, 3 days a week, 2 or 3 days a week. Boys and girls basketball are in there 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week. It just depends on the week. So we, in our brainstorm and when we were talking, we talked about looking at these tier 2 teams, calling it kind of a Cougar sponsorship. You are organizations, you have all Edgewood students who are affiliated with the district, but we can't just have it be wide open to everybody because again, we do have to maintain the facilities. So can we sort of level this with our tier 2 groups so that they do have access and they can use our facilities, but we can continue to maintain them as well. And then your tier 3 would be any other outside teams or organizations. So, your select and travel teams that aren't full of Edgewood students. We have outside groups that come in. We have some musical theater groups, some performance groups. We have one that comes from Columbus that wants to use our facilities. Those groups would be charged according to our facility usage policy. And we've updated some of the prices and things in there. So as we talk about fees, I think this kind of happened in light of the levy failure a couple of years ago. We had increased significantly some of the cost to some of these facilities. We realize we are charging some community groups that should have opportunities to use our facilities. We've had Boys and Girl Scout groups reach out and, I was saying, hey, the policy says you have to pay X amount of money to host your Pinewood Derby in the cafeteria. And they were saying, absolutely not, we're a nonprofit, we can't afford that. And I'm heartbroken because I'm turning away the Boy Scouts. They can't host their Pinewood Derby in our cafeteria. But again, in an attempt to follow the policy as it was written, that's kind of what was happening. So that's why we were tasked with, hey, we've got to look at this a little bit differently. So looking at our Edgewood youth organizations, making donations based on their facility usage. We do get a lot of questions about this, but Pee Wee football is different. They are actually a corporate sponsor. They pay $10,000 per year, and that goes towards our Coomer Field fund. That one's a little bit different. So in the packet that you guys have, Scott has put together in the back, I think, some of the comparison with some of the other school districts around here. Monroe's in there, Ross, Bellbrook, Brookville, Kings, just lots of different schools around here. And so we have proposed sort of an adjustment to some of our fees. So these fees that you're seeing in the presentation are different than what is currently in the facility usage policy. Gymnasiums right now, I think, are $125 per hour. Our proposal is to drop that to $75 per hour. Really just in order to kind of be a little bit more in line with what some of the other schools are. We found that, you know, in some areas we were significantly higher than some of these other school districts, and really pricing out some of our groups and some of our community organizations that were wanting to use our facilities. So we felt like these were appropriate. There's some additional things that we'll talk about here on the next slide, but these are our proposed fees.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So like with youth basketball, you said that you did $12.50. That was for the whole season.
Yeah.
Would we offer something like that in lieu of these individual rates for an organization that's going to be using it every week over the course of the season? Or are we going strictly with what we're talking about here per hour?
Well, and that's coming up, but yeah, that is something that we talked about. You know, if we have a team that wants to come in and they're wanting to use, you know, every Sunday night for an hour or two from January to March, we would probably ask them to enter into that Cougar sponsorship category versus charging them each time.
So these would be like for one-time
Yes.
fees?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
If a team wants to come in and host a game, or, you know, it rains and they want to do one practice, that kind of a thing, it would be those kind of one-off events.
Thank you.
So some of the additional personnel and equipment fees, we added some categories on here. If they need the sound system, microphones, podiums, some of those are not per hour. Microphone, podium, that's just going to be kind of a flat fee there. Audiovisual equipment, we will continue to charge if there's a need for a custodian or a cook or a technology specialist. We pay our staff to be here for those events, and some of those things will be a little bit like when Scott and I are looking at these facility usage requests, kind of at our discretion. If they say, oh, we don't need a custodian, well, we might need somebody to unlock the doors and things like that. So there will be an additional fee if we do have to require a custodian to be there for whatever reason. With the availability, we talked about Tier 2 and Tier 3 organizations. This comes up every year. They will not have use of the facilities on calamity days, holidays, or extended breaks. Simply due to the fact that our staff typically over those extended breaks, they work during the day. So like our evening custodians typically work during the day over those breaks. And we just don't have staff there to be able to do it. Now, could they request it and pay? Yes, they could do that. But there would be some additional charge to that because we would have to bring in staff outside of their normal work hours. During the school year, Tier 2 and Tier 3 sports can use the gyms from 5 to 9. We give priority to our middle school and high school sports. So some of those outside organizations will be a little bit more limited in the times that they're able to use the buildings. And again, every situation will be a little bit different. The tests will be a little bit different. So Scott and I are going to work through our calendar scheduling to make sure that space is available and things like that. So what we've decided to do is change the process a little bit. As the process is right now, if you wanted to go in and reserve space in one of our buildings, we use a website called ML Schedules. You would have to go in, create an account. It's a little bit clunky. It's not the most user-friendly website. To create an account, if you're an outside organization, you would have to upload your certificate of insurance. There's a couple different steps there. And then essentially you could go through and fill out this pretty lengthy form and request your space, and it would go through an approval process that way. So each space has a little bit of a different approval, whether it goes through me or Scott, the building principal. There's a couple different approval paths. What we are proposing is to take that piece out of it. In the past, there's been an actual paper that organizations have to fill out with all the information on it. It makes sense to go back to that a little bit. So we're gonna ask, in that paper, the old version is in your packet, and then there's a new sort of proposed version in there as well. To go back to that, we're asking that those be turned in. Those will come to me within 10 days of the event in the space, with the space that you're requesting and all of the information. I will look through the request, look at the schedule, determine if there's a cost associated with it. We'll use our current system to generate an invoice if necessary. I work with Patty and Laura Schuler in the Treasurer's Department for invoicing these events. And then once we work through all of that, making sure that all the paperwork is on file, it'll go to Mr. Clemens, who works through getting everything on the schedule through Dragonfly and ML schedules and things like that. So we have some work to do on our website, and we'll make sure that all of this information goes out, but I think that makes it easier and a little bit more accessible for people. Do one form to fill out, get it sent in to me, and then we can work through the process that way.
I have a question for you on your tennis facilities. What are you thinking there? To be honest with you, I like to work with you on their tennis game a little bit. We were pretty successful with it a couple of years ago, and I had to quit because of my Achilles, but I'm pretty well healed up again. Would like to do something like that again. I didn't notice your tennis facilities mentioned, and I've heard that they're locked all the time. Is that true or not?
So all of our facilities at the stadium will be unlocked at 6 a.m. when the maintenance men get here, then they get locked whenever I leave or the coach finishes up practice at 5, 6 o'clock in the evening.
So they are locked at 5 or 6 p.m.?
Yes, they do that. Whatever time we finish up with things, that they do get locked, yes. But I mean, it's one of those things that we said about partnership with community or something, like if you got an organization you want to sit down, meet with us and go through how that would look, what it would look like, the times, the hours that you would like to partnership that, it's something we can sit down and go through with you guys.
So are they locked during the weekend?
The weekends we have not left them unlocked. Because here's what happens is we found through the years now was we leave them unlocked, and unfortunately somebody gets in there and they jump on the nets, they break the nets, and we have to replace those. They're very expensive, so that's kind of why we started locking those as we call
Yeah,
it.
I wondered about that because I would think most of your wear and tear just comes from summer weather.
Yes.
On the tennis
So we unfortunately had some people get in there and cut the lines on the nets. Almost had to replace 3 of them last year where they were
Cut.
Yes, sir.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I
We
understand.
will add the tennis courts to that. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
That was,
Yeah, I understand you locking them there.
Yes, sir.
But it's one of those sports that a kid can't practice in their backyard.
That's correct. Correct. And we have a great new young coach that's very involved with it, so he's looking at things to do in the spring to grow the program on the girls' side and all those things too. So
Good. I'll stop by and talk to them.
Yes, sir.
I personally appreciate y'all taking the time to do this. I've had a couple community members that are coaches reach out to me, and it priced them out to be able to use our facilities. The question I got for you is, you said you looked at other schools, and are we pretty much online with what all the other districts are doing now in terms of rates and things like that?
It was really all over the board. You know, there would be a district that was charging $20 an hour for their gym, and a district that was charging $125. So in some of these, you know, some of the facilities, we tried to kind of find a middle ground, what we thought was appropriate, what we thought, you know, could help us continue to maintain, but not astronomical to price them out, but also, you know, high enough that, you know, it made sense for us as well. I mean,
Yeah.
we try to just kind of find a middle of the road for some of them, yeah.
Well, like I said, I appreciate y'all doing this, and I think it's a shame if we've ever got to the point where we're pricing our own community out of our facilities. And in your opinion, this is reasonable here?
Given that they pay for it, yes.
Yeah, I mean, Michael was part of that when we met. We had Mrs. Mers, the principal at EIS, was in there. Her building gets used probably, aside from the high school, her building gets used quite a bit with youth sports and things like that. So we wanted to get her input. She also came from another district, you know, so get kind of some input that way, and felt like we had some really good conversation in there, and we tried to take, you know, what we had heard from you guys and some requests, and, you know, Scott and I are both pretty involved in the community, and, you know, we get it too, we get phone calls and things, so trying to make it, open it up to our community, but also, you know, unfortunately, it can't just be a free-for-all. You know, we love to be able to open up the doors to everybody, but we also have to maintain, and we have to sort of keep it under control at the same time. So we felt like this was a good balance. We felt like it's certainly up for discussion. If there's things in here that, you know, you don't like the direction that it's going, we can reevaluate. We can look at some new things.
I like that. I think it's long overdue. Like I said, I really appreciate y'all taking the time to do this.
Sure.
I think my question is, I see all these proposed amounts of money, but it doesn't say where this money's gonna go.
So that's a conversation that we've had too, and we've been asked by building administrators, quite frankly, about this as well. So, you know, when we, I think Patty, most of it goes just back into the general fund, correct? Is that right?
These sponsorships go into the criminal field renovation, but yeah, most everything goes into the.
We have had questions, and it's been discussed, and this is maybe a conversation to have with Patty a little bit, is when you do have a request for baseball field, softball field, should that money go into a specific fund for the maintenance and the upkeep of baseball, softball facilities, you know, down the road, if we need new fences, we need new dugouts, things like that, should it go directly towards that? When the auditorium is requested and we need to use the sound system and the lights, there are upgrades that we need in that auditorium, lighting and sound and things like that. Should those facility usage requests go into a fund specific to the auditorium for those upgrades down the road? I don't know the answer to that. We would have to probably open up separate accounts and things like that, but.
And that's a lot of extra work. Most everything is being paid out of our general fund. I mean, we're advancing money into various accounts at year end anyway because we can't close them out negative. So that's
how we build our.
That's a big
reserve.
ask. That is a big ask.
I think the general fund's probably where this money needs to go. It's where the money is coming from to take care of these items.
And when we
I don't
need,
think we
when
can
we
set up
have,
special
If
funds
we had
for
money in
each little.
reserve, that'd
Yeah.
be different.
when we have personnel that has to come in and work, that comes, when we pay them, that comes out of the general fund. So, and we're working really hard to be fiscally responsible, but also, update and maintain our buildings as needed and our equipment as needed. So we're working through that and our capital plan moving forward, and I think some of those things just fall into that as well.
One of the biggest expenses we're gonna occur from this would be redoing the gym floors.
Yeah.
And the money that's paid to do that comes out of the general fund.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
makes sense.
Any other questions?
Great work. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
If you guys have any questions, just reach out.
Good job.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you everyone that presented tonight. That's very important stuff. The mental health is something we definitely want to stay on top of. So thank you again for that. Next we have public participation, and we don't have any of that tonight. So we will move to treasure items. Mrs. Bowers, would you like to start?
Yes, Mr. Gabbard, I would like to ask for a motion to approve the board meeting minutes from August the 26th.
Looking for a motion to approve the August 26th board minutes.
So moved.
Mr. Messerschmidt, do I have a second? Mr. President, Mrs. Bowers, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Mark Messerschmidt.
Yes.
Mr. Michael Pressler.
Yes.
Mr. Gary Gabbard.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0. Next agenda item, I would like to ask for a motion to approve the August 2024 financial reports as presented.
Looking for a motion to approve the August 2024 financial reports.
So moved.
Mr. Messerschmidt, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Preston. Mrs. Bowers, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Mark Messerschmidt.
Yes.
Mr. Michael Pressler.
Yes.
Mr. Gary Gabbard.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0. Next agenda item, I would like to block items C and D. These are two new special cost centers. If you could approve those.
Looking for a motion to approve both C and D as presented.
So moved.
Mr. Pressler, do I have a second?
A second.
Mr. Messerschmidt, I appreciate you guys breaking that up. Mrs. Bowers, would you call the roll, please?
Wait, I got a question.
Yes.
So this educator baby prevention, what exactly is this?
This is actually something that Mrs. Spivey applied for. Do you want to talk about it?
Sure, so our Family First Council has grant money, and we've met with them in regard to what we can do to prevent vaping in schools. Anything we do for prevention around health and at-risk behaviors, that money will go towards. So that'll get absorbed pretty quickly, either through staff training or instructional supplies, or even assessments. Last year, you saw a brief assessment that we do countywide and even statewide on at-risk behaviors. That money can be used for that as well. We're not buying things, if that's what you're asking.
I didn't think you were.
Mrs. Bowers, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Michael Pressler.
Yes.
Mr. Mark Messerschmidt.
Yes.
Mr. Gary Gabbard.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0. The next agenda item, I would like to ask for a motion to approve the amended certificate of estimated resources and appropriations.
Looking for a motion to approve the estimated resources and appropriations.
So moved.
Mr. Messerschmidt, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Pressler. Discussion? Mrs. Bowers, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Mark Messerschmidt.
Yes.
Mr. Michael Pressler.
Yes.
Mr. Gary Gabbard.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0. The next agenda item is various donations. We have $390 for pay to participate, $412 towards school fees, another $100 for a specific 10th grade student at the high school fees, and $41.64 for high school fees. And then finally, various list of donations from Jacksonburg United Methodist Church, supplies to Edgewood Primary School.
Looking for a motion for the various donations.
So moved.
Mr. Messerschmidt, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Pressler.
Very nice of them.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Very much needed. Mrs. Bowers, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Mark Messerschmidt.
Yes.
Mr. Michael Pressler.
Yes.
Mr. Gary Gabbard.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0. Next agenda item is Butler County Educational Service Center contracts for psychology services.
Looking for a motion for Butler County contracts for psychology services.
So moved.
Mr. Messerschmidt, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Pressler. Take it this is every year.
Well,
Covering a maternity leave.
Can't hear you.
covering the maternity leave.
Gotcha.
Also, it's covered in the past. Remember, we talked about our salaries being less than neighboring districts. When we lose a psychologist and we can't get anyone to come in for what we pay, we have to pay more to secure what we need. So that's a nice tutorial as well. So they fill multiple gaps, maternity leave or a gap in our hiring.
Thank you. Mrs. Bowers, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Mark Messerschmidt.
Yes.
Mr. Michael Pressler.
Yes.
Mr. Gary Gabbard.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mrs. Bowers.
The organizational items are good.
You go ahead.
Okay, I would like to propose, moving forward, item 6A, you have 3 field trips before you. 2 are for FFA. 1 is a 3-day program for people that compete at the convention. The other is a 1-day for those that participate and observe. And the other is a field trip for DECA Ultimate Power Trip. And these are all either competition, but they're through our Butler Tech programs.
Looking for a motion to approve the 3 field trips as presented.
So moved.
Mr. Messerschmidt. Mr. Pressler. And we checked situation in North Carolina?
You know
Or
what?
if
So
it's
that's
far
not
enough
until
away?
November 14th to 17th. We obviously will, but as of right now, we're feeling good about that.
Okay. Mrs. Bowers, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Mark Messerschmidt.
Yes.
Mr. Michael Pressler.
Yes.
Mr. Gary Gabbard.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0.
Well, that really is my items for approval. We'd like to provide an update though. We have several things going on. First of all, I want to compliment our presenters this evening and what they're doing towards mental health. But Butler County, through the Family First Council, again, they're really good about sharing grant dollars. And other than the $1,800 for vaping, you're giving free mental health spots for virtual therapy. So you probably want to have an older student, but they're providing 25 spots for Edgewood students. And so obviously when they shared that, I said, absolutely, we want to participate. So we have a meeting, we met with them last week, and then we have an onboarding meeting at the end of this week. So just shout out to Butler County, specifically Family First Council, who not only provided the $1,800 for drug prevention, but also with our therapy needs. Next on my update, would like to certainly do a shout out to our Edgewood ministerial team. Of course, Scott was with us this evening to provide prayer, but we had over 30 participants at a breakfast. What a great partnership for Edgewood as we talk about the needs of the district. It's always a great way to start our day, but they do so much for our students, and they constantly come and say, what else do you need? And it's just a resource that I've been around in many districts that you don't see other places. So feel so value that partnership and feel very blessed to be a part of that. But also learned at the breakfast that in the past, we've always had a group of students meet every Friday. It's been somewhere between 12 students before school. They meet at 7:05 to about 7:20 before school ever starts. It's student initiated. It is a student fellowship, athletic fellowship group, and that group has moved from 5 to 12 up to over 120 students. This whole room was filled on Friday, and you talk about a goosebump moment. It is 100% led by students, and I understand our sophomore class is coming in strong as they share just personal testimonies about how to overcome fear was the lesson for this past week. But the leadership there is tremendous, so a big shout out for that. Also, speaking of engagement groups, we meet with our community engagement, and if you recall, the board gave us a task last year to say, if we would ever have to close a facility, what would it be? And of course, that's never a fun task. You hear me say multiple times, it's almost like, which child are you going to give up? Your oldest or your youngest? That's never a good task. But we've had some real rich conversations through that process, and what has become forward is that people certainly don't want to pick a building if one has to be closed. We'd love to think more futuristic versus behind us. And but what was concluded is to put out a staff survey. Is there an interest for neighborhood schools? I'm hearing from the community, there's staff members that have an interest for community schools. I'm hearing from teachers, there's no interest in that. So this survey will certainly provide some input. Is there an interest for that? And if so, one of our strategic goals is all about building relationships. And if we always want to take community and staff input, but our staff will help guide that process. But that's something you may hear about. But also, as we're talking about facilities, the Ohio School, it's actually used to be called Ohio School Facility Commission. Now it's Ohio Facility Construction Commission. And if you recall, tobacco dollars that came into the state back in the early 90s allocated funds for districts that were building new facilities. Funds were used towards the high school, and we are part of the CFAP program, which is sectioning your projects. Well, when I first came to Edgewood 2 years ago, that dollar amount was 49 cents. The state would provide 49 cents to our community, 51 cents per dollar for a new facility. Certainly my comment was, we have to work on operating. We're not ready to have those conversations. Got a call just last week, and they said, guess what? You're in a sweet spot. it's gonna start going back down, but right now, the state would give you the state would give you 66 cents per your 34 cents per dollar for a new facility. Now, what that means is they will come in and do a presentation for the board, which would be our October board meeting. It could even be Zoom. They'll tell you all the rules. If we would choose to even go forward in conversation, that doesn't mean you're doing the project. You're going through in conversation and saying, all right, state, we're giving you permission to come in and assess our facilities because our last assessment was completed in 2008. Also, they would ask us to assess and survey our community. If it's something the community would want, we would have 2 years to secure, 16 months to secure funding. So it's a conversation that would begin now, but you're talking a couple years down the road if that's something the community would be interested in. But 34 cents to 66 cents got my interest. I don't know about you, but I'm into coupons and bargain shopping, so I said on behalf of the board, I'm sure you would like to hear more about it, and they will present either via Zoom or they'll come to us and talk to us about what the Ohio Facility Construction Commission is about and how it pertains to that.
You said we're doing this in October is when they're coming?
Yes, sir. Yes, unless you tell me to call them off, but I got so excited, I was like, absolutely, come in. The next piece, speaking of engagement, certainly want to thank Dale Perry. He heard me say in our community engagement meeting that I had invited all the political figures to come to our ministerial breakfast. And all of them were not available. I mean, I even invited J.D. Vance with the hoping being next door to Middletown, maybe he'd come in and talk to us. But you know what? Dale, where are you, Dale? I have no clout because they said no, but you got them to come in on October 15th. And Dale, on behalf of the Trenton City Council, is inviting the board, or I know Patty and I will be there, as well as Elisa. And Doug, I know you've been meeting with some, so you're certainly invited, but they're gonna host a breakfast. They're gonna do a tour of some projects for the city, and if we wanna have a tour here at the building, we certainly can. But I want to thank you for that nice partnership and inviting us to that conversation. Edgewood will be at that table. I'll get back to you on the number soon. Now, I believe, I just want to do a shout out to our administrative staff. I have some cute stories real quick. Part of our strategic plan is to build relationships. So some of the teachers said, we need to see more of the administrators. We need to see you roll up your sleeves and help us out. So under the direction of Elisa Beckett, she put together a sub list. So every district administrator, I don't know about the building principals, but we're going in and subbing at least one time a grading period. Now, I have to tell you, that sounds really good on paper until you go to do that in person. Some of the stories coming back have just been adorable, but it's been a while that a lot of us have been in there. So it's very humbling, it's a learning moment, but it's a great PR tool, and it's a savings to the district. They're saving quite a bit. We pay a sub about, what, $100 a day? 90, I round up 100. I mean, think about that times the number of administrators. That's quite a savings to the district, and it's a great PR. So just want to thank the administrative staff for doing that, and Mr. Gagan, on behalf of the district office, and I'm sure the board, you put on an outstanding homecoming event. A lot of hard work, a lot of supervision. The Spiveys were responsible to take a carload to dinner and drop them off, and to see all the security you had and the supervisors warmed my heart. So, and I hear it was a lot of fun.
Over 800 kids.
That's amazing. So thank you, thank you. That concludes, I believe, my update. That was a mouthful. Any questions?
No questions, thank you, Ms.
All right.
Next agenda item is items from board members. At this time, I'm going to look for a motion for the approval of the City of Trenton amended MOA.
So moved.
Mr. Messerschmidt, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Presley. Discussion.
So I've looked at this, as I think everybody has. What I see here is the city of Trenton came to us 19 years ago and asked us to enter into this agreement. I don't understand why we would have agreed to this 19 years ago. However, we did. Fast forward, now we're being asked to amend the agreement. As I can tell looking at this, we gain nothing and we lose nothing by doing it. But the city of Trenton gains quite a bit. They get the flexibility to use these monies for different things. I would not have wanted my name on that document 19 years ago. I don't know where we'll be in 11 years, and depending on how they use that money, I think it could put us at a disadvantage within the community based off of some of the things they could use that money for. I don't know where we'll be in 11 years. It's my understanding that they say they can move forward without us. So I'm of the opinion I wouldn't want my name on this. I don't know where we'll be in 11 years. So I really personally don't feel good about supporting this.
Well, to follow up on that, Mr. Messerschmidt, I absolutely will not put my name on this because I don't think I should make a decision 11 years out that I will not be sitting on this board. For that to happen 19 years ago is beyond me. I don't know if that's normal practice, but in the 10 years I've been on this board, nothing like that's ever come across. So I definitely would not put my name on that. So if there's not any more discussion about it, I mean, we could probably go ahead and vote. Unless Mr. Presley would like to add.
No, I just don't see how this benefits the Edgewood City School District.
Okay. Mrs. Bowers, would you take a roll, please?
Mr. Mark Messerschmidt,
No.
Mr. Michael Pressler,
No.
Mr. Gary Gabbard,
No.
motion is denied 3-0.
Next we have items from board members. Mr. Messerschmidt, would you like to start?
So yeah, I'd just like to kind of piggyback on what Kelly was talking about on Friday. I had the opportunity to go over to the high school and meet with Mr. Matt Root. He does a character and leadership course. I've been over there and spoke in that course several times since its inception a couple years ago. Scott, you played a key role in putting together the curriculum and stuff for that. And I walked into the high school, and obviously this is just a snapshot, but there was music, there were administrators in the hallway, the office was buzzing. Of course, it's homecoming week. I saw teachers out in the hallways. There was a tremendous amount of positive energy in that building. And then I went upstairs and I got into Mr. Root's class, and we started having the discussion around character and leadership, and that energy that I saw in the hallway directly carried into the classroom. And this was the third or fourth time I've been in there to do that, and out of all the times I've been in there, I felt like that class that I was in on Friday was probably the most energetic. So I say all that to say, what I saw on that Friday was a lot of positive energy, and it was really an awesome thing to see. And we've talked about it in here. I get feedback from people that work across all the buildings, and there's just a lot of positive energy in the district right now, and I feel like we're doing a lot of really good things. I've got a daughter that's in the middle school, and I know she's excited about school. She comes home and she's excited about her teacher. So it just feels really good to sit up here on this stage right now when I see things like I saw on Friday and the great week of homecoming and the parade and all the things that we did. So just really, really proud to be up here, and a shout out to you, all the administrators, teachers, staff across the district. Y'all are doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Messerschmidt. Mr. Pressler.
I have nothing, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Pressler. I don't have anything to add this evening. I'm going to look now for a motion to move to executive session for the following reasons. To consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official.
So moved.
Mr. Pressler, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Messerschmidt. Mrs. Bowers, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Michael Pressler?
Yes.
Mr. Mark Messerschmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Gary Gabbard?
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0. It is 7:09 p.m.